Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for coming today. We are super excited to launch this series of education geared towards emerging brands. And before we get started, just some quick housekeeping rules. Make sure you're muted if you aren't already. And for any questions, feel free to comment in the box below. So without further ado, here is Dac Clark, CEO of L SPACE, here to present regarding going from D2C to B2B, time to start your wholesale channel.
Well, thank you, Susan. Yeah, I'm very excited about this presentation because I started out in wholesale and then evolved into e-commerce. And it's been a great experience to be actually having two places to sell products. L SPACE started out in 2000. We did not have an e-commerce presence at that point. We did have a pretty active social marketing presence, but we didn't actually conduct business in e-commerce. In 2013, we opened up our e-commerce channel, and it's been really, really successful. And from spring 2013, we were able to explode our e-commerce business, but most importantly, we were able to maintain a growing wholesale business. Now, many of you may be doing e-commerce today or wholesale only, and be contemplating jumping the fence and doing both. I would say and encourage you to really do that. It's interesting because our staff, as we were going through the changes of actually formulating and moving into e-commerce, there was a lot of discussion in the company. Are we an e-commerce company? Are we a wholesale company? And we always answered the question yes, meaning we were in both. And both has been very good for us over the years. Today we're going to talk about when is the right time to launch a wholesale channel, what are the key drivers of success in starting a wholesale strategy, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between direct to consumer and wholesale. You hear D2C, you probably know that's direct to consumer, and B2B, which is a wholesale element of selling directly to your wholesale clients. We'll talk a little bit about a retail checklist, a wholesale selling plan, and then we're going to open that up for questions and answers to all of you, and you'll be able to turn on your mic and ask direct questions that maybe you haven't sent forward as we've gone through the presentation. Today's successful brands operate as a multiple types of businesses. You've got the direct to consumer. Direct to consumer is e-commerce. They've got retail stores, omni-channel, and of course, really the grandfather of D2C, which is catalogs. There's still companies out there that are catalog companies, and that is their direct-to-consumer business. Most of them have also segued to e-commerce. Then there's wholesale businesses that sell through retailers. They wholesale to retailers or to other types of resellers. Wholesale is where B2B plays an essential role in the brand's wholesale business because it really extends your sales force into actual retail buyers that are buying your line in the stores that you sell. Pretty interesting. Also, wholesale represents a huge opportunity for sales and market share growth, and it'll help drive your e-commerce business. The two work synergistically together. Also, if you begin to add retail stores and have e-commerce and have a wholesale presence, it only drives more awareness to your brand. But if you haven't moved into wholesale today, it is kind of a big decision. And it really kind of requires a lot of planning. I always say that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so in this case, if you're going to be moving or expanding your business and the meaning of your business to your ultimate retail consumers, you really have to put together a really good wholesale business plan. What that would include, first of all, is you have to make a decision. You probably already did that as you are successful in e-commerce. What markets are you serving? Your outdoor market, is it action sports, fashion, etc.? There's many different types of channels, and you may be serving 3 or 4 channels right now on your e-commerce business. You want to look at your distribution channels. What kind of stores are you selling within those channels or industries? Are you selling boutiques, camping stores, chains, department stores? There's a whole gamut of stores, and yes, you can be selling 3 or 4 of those groups all at the same time. Most important, you want to have a product plan. You may have a narrow product line right now that you're featuring on your e-commerce site, but as you get into wholesale and you start to look at all the opportunities you are to expand your business, There's huge opportunities for line extension and line expansion, which means expanding the number of products, the number of categories, or the number of small businesses and services that you're currently offering to the wholesale customers. And also really important, because it even becomes more so when you move from wholesale or e-commerce to wholesale, you really have to be very, very astute in understanding what's your competition doing? How are you going to compete with them? How do you measure them up? What are their strong points? What are their weak points? So these 4 items here are, I think, the foundation of a wholesale business, and so I consider those the foundation to the plan. Then once you get into this plan, some of the elements you want to be sure that you think about is, first of all, a sales plan. You want to have a top-down sales plan and sales goals monthly. At L SPACE, we have a number of different sales plans. We have an e-commerce sales plan. We have a wholesale retail sales plan. We also have a category plan, which means buttressing that top-down sales plan are how much business do we want to do in each season or in each month in the different categories we sell. Like at L SPACE, we sell swimsuits, we sell cover-ups, we sell dresses. Well, each of those is a category, and each one of those has a plan. Also, you want to identify your key seasons. When are you going to be, and when I say key seasons, not key wholesale seasons, but key retail seasons, because at the same time which you're doing at wholesale to create demand for your product, you're doing the same thing in e-commerce. And those two efforts, marketing efforts, work really closely. And it's really essential that you don't have different seasons or a disconnect between what you're doing in e-commerce and what you're doing in wholesale. And that means your marketing tie-in needs to really be supportive of this overall sales plan, so that you're not just creating a sales plan, really you've got to create the marketing plan, which talks about how am I going to make that happen. So let's talk a little bit about a marketing plan. That's really selling your brand to your e-commerce and retail consumers. As I said before, they work synergistically, because that customer that's out there may buy in a retail store, they may buy on your e-commerce site. In fact, if you're selling wholesale, they may also buy in one of your customers' e-commerce sites. One of our biggest customers at L SPACE is Revolve. Very, very well run, very successful e-commerce site that they just do an amazing job. And they probably sell maybe 10% of our business out there is actually sold through one of our customers, which is Revolve. So as you think about expanding your wholesale, you'll be selling retailers that have stores, and you'll be selling retailers that also have a website. And when you're thinking about that marketing plan, you want to really be careful about identifying carefully your target customer. Don't go wide, go a little deep, go narrow, because you'll get confused if you don't. You need to think about what your media plan is. Obviously today, social media really drives consumer choice. That's our number one lean on as far as media, is we've created influencers, and other people that actually are promoting our brand through various different social media. You also got to have a really strong idea about your creative look and feel, and you don't want to change that. You want to have a look and feel that you build on over time. So take a lot of time and be very careful about that. That also has probably been done already if you have an e-commerce site, but you've got to think about, how do I extend that look and feel from my e-commerce page into a retail store through signing and other things that are going to separate my brand when a consumer walks in the store. Obviously today, another big part of marketing is events, having events that are happening coexistingly at the retail stores. That's the way we do it at L SPACE. We'll have events that are running throughout the year, and those events are cross-pollinated back and forth between our retail efforts and our e-commerce efforts. You need a seasonal calendar. All of this stuff should be looked at as parts of a 52-week plan. And the seasonal calendar, your events, all of those things need to be managed in a way that they work together, they work synergistically, so that you're getting the biggest bang for your buck. And finally, messages. Message is really important, because what you say and how you say it, and how you evolve that discussion and that interaction with the customer is essential. And so we like to talk about message management. At at L SPACE, and it means having not a lot to say, but having a narrow amount of things to say, saying it the same way, developing a nomenclature or a set of words that are only unique to us, or could be other brands using it, but it's the ones we continue to use. And that message management and that consistency really builds a strong SEO for your brand, search engine optimization, because that search engine is starting to see you a lot and giving you credit and associating those words and those messages back to your brand. And of course, no plan in marketing or anything else is complete without a budget. And again, that's on a 52-week plan as well. The other side of this is having your wholesale plan. So if you're going to move from e-commerce to wholesale, again, you have to have a plan. And there's a lot of details to that plan, but I think the essential things are what I have on the screen, which really means I'm going to set up my wholesale plan. And the two things I have is my selling plan and my wholesale selling systems. My wholesale selling plan starts out with wholesale retail sales goals. So what do I think I'm going to do in the marketplace? And I break that sales plan down into territories. So I have multiple territories and I have sales reps that sell the line. Now, territories should be easy to define because if you have an existing e-commerce business, you have a pretty good idea about how your sales are across the country and where you're getting your traction. And those areas that you're getting your traction today are probably the same areas that you're going to get a lot of traction in your wholesale business. Also, a wholesale business can also build traffic and sales and awareness for your brand in territories that you're not doing so well in or you haven't really been able to penetrate. Next really important thing is sales reps. Probably one of the more difficult things about executing a wholesale strategy is, who are my reps going to be? Now, obviously, you should be thinking about what is a profile of my rep. Just like you profile your customers, you should be profiling your reps. And the reps, when you profile them, you should be thinking about the look and feel of that person. Is that person consistent with your brand presentation and with your brand and how you would like to see your brand presented? Do they have the skills that are necessary? What territory or what stores or areas across the country are they strong in? And when you think about recruiting a salesman, most of you probably have friends or people that you know that run stores that you're either currently selling or that you plan to sell. Find out from them who the good reps are, because they'll tell you. And there are definitely good reps and bad reps. And there's not a lot of space in between. It's like one freeway going one way and one going the other way. So be really careful about who you recruit and lean a lot on your retail customers as you select your initial set of reps and then as you expand your sales rep force, because there's a lot of reps out there that are terrific. And oh, by the way, if you don't have reps now, you may not be aware that most sales reps are multi-line reps, which means they're not just selling, or they wouldn't just be selling your products, they might be selling 2 or 3 other brands that makes them important to the retail stores that they sell and to the retail buyers that'll be buying your products in the future. So always keep that in mind, that it's not bad that they're selling other brands. As we grew L SPACE, at one time, we were a small brand with many of our reps that were selling 4 or 5 brands, and some of them were even selling competitive swim brands. That didn't bother us because the strength of that rep was based on the products and the brands that they were actually selling. So it's really important that you kind of really think through the sales rep side and how that's going to work for you, how you're going to recruit them, how you're going to select them. Next thing is training. Training is super important. You've got to train them. Most of them know how to sell. Most of them know how to run their business. Most of them know how to make appointments, but they don't know your product range. And so you really have to train them on all the nuances and fine points and selling points of why should somebody be buying my brand, like we did with L SPACE. Why should somebody be buying L SPACE? And what are the points and selling points of our brand, our assortment, our marketing, our products, and everything else that really make up our brand and differentiate us in the marketplace. And finally, trade shows. Trade shows were something that was sort of just almost disappearing during COVID, but they're back charging again. People like to go to trade shows. They like to see other brands. It's convenient for the buyers. And as we see these variants sort of fall off and more people get their COVID vaccinations, I think we're going to see trade shows continuing to grow. In the last 4 months, many of the trade shows that relaunched very successfully. The next area that I'm going to talk to you about are selling systems, because you've got your wholesale selling plan, you've got your reps, you've trained them, but what are you going to do as far as a selling system? Well, the important thing there is that you have a wholesale selling system that really is building your brand. I think that a system like a RepSpark, for example, or another system like that really helps you develop a selling system, because as we said, we have independent reps, and as such, they are independent, and they're going to sell your brand in a different way. When you put them into a system that has structure like a RepSpark, for example, which we use, it puts them, first of all, into a way of presenting the line and those types of things, so that they're presenting the line in such a way as you really want the brand to be seen by the customer. Also, you've got product catalogs. Many of the brands that, not many of the brands, actually our case, we were producing 4 catalogs a year at L SPACE. They were beautiful. They were absolutely beautiful. And they cost about $12 a piece. And as we began to move into the COVID times, we realized we can't disperse those. They're becoming a real weight on our profit line. And we were spending just too much money on catalogs. So we were so happy when we were able to move into RepSpark's product catalogs that became virtual. They flip like a real catalog. They basically can take a lookbook and turn it into a buy book. It's just really, really amazing. And that also gives you the ability to go from samples to virtual samples, because many times you can have virtual swatch cards and things like that built right into your system if you're on something like RepSpark. And finally, you have B2B selling tools, which are really essential, because B2B really provides an opportunity for you to turn your retail buyers into an extension of your sales force, because the retailer can go in on these virtual catalogs, select the products they want, and basically provide that and do their own buying. It's just an amazing opportunity. And we have seen our B2B business, which used to be salesman to buyer. Salesmen are still involved, but they're sort of out of the loop because it can happen so much faster. Today, we're doing about 7 or 8% of our business on B2B through the catalog, the virtual catalog that used to be handled with the sales force. And of course, this was a great opportunity during COVID because people didn't necessarily want to work in a one-to-one environment. And then you have a bunch of other selling tools that obviously you should have. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because I think that if you're not in wholesale, you should be. And if you're thinking about it, or even if you're in it and you're worried about how it isn't working, or why it isn't working maybe as well as you'd like, I think it's probably a lack of planning. So planning, again, is so important and so essential to what you're doing and to making such a move as you'd be making to move from wholesale or from e-commerce into wholesale, or even take your wholesale business and reevaluate it and really optimize it for your business. So I guess now we'll work into Q&A, and if any of you guys have questions out there,
yes,
looking forward to
we actually have a question. One of the questions asked is, do you prefer independent reps or rep groups?
Well, we have some of both, and over the years I've been involved with many brands, and today we have at L SPACE we have independent sales reps, and some of those reps have sub reps, which means they're sort of a group. Back in the days when we did Sanuk, we had some rep groups that were really good. As we moved Sanuk, for example, from a action sport business into outdoor, one of the reasons we were really successful in making that change is we found rep groups that were really strong in their connections and their ability to sell outdoor stores because we had never been selling them up to that point. That gave us a huge advantage and got us into outdoor much quicker than if we were out there shopping for individual reps. So I say both work. I think it depends on what you're trying to do with either one of those groups.
We have
okay. The next question is, do you have reps if you use B2B? We do. You don't have to. If it depends on your business. If you're a business that's really heavily fill-in oriented, you can really run your business with 100% on B2B. I don't necessarily suggest it because somebody's got to get you into those stores initially, but we have some jewelry clients that I know about that, or some friends in the jewelry business that really don't have sales reps. It's all done on a B2B basis. So you can use both. It sort of depends on your product line, the complexity of what you're selling, and other details.
We have another question. Do you have resistance from old school buyers who still want to write on catalogs?
Yes, we had some resistance at first, but really, if somebody wants to go back in the past, they're going to hold your brand back. I think one of the more important ways to answer that question is, what does the retailer expect today? Today, I think retailers have moved on. They've become modern. They've gone forward, and they're looking for a digital experience. I mean, there are probably some old school buyers and old school reps, but this is a question that I've heard asked before. But most of the reps get up and get on it really fast, and they find out that there's a huge assortment of tools that they can have. It takes so much less time to do a digital order than a manual order, and you can take notes in these digital catalogs. We sit down and we work the line with our buyers. The buyers can actually put favorites in. They could do so that they can actually take a one-time run through the line, find out what they like. They mark their favorites. And more importantly, when you were on a digital or on a paper catalog, they'd make those notes. And then when you were done with the meeting, they'd walk away with all that information. When it's done digitally on a computer, all of those choices, all those likes and dislikes or comments that they wanted to make are very easily inserted into that one view that they made, and that becomes the basis for a potential order. What are the best ways to get the word out when you're just starting? I think that one of the best ways is to blast out the digital catalog. So you've got these potential customers or a group of customers or a group of buyers that you haven't really sold to. You can very easily electronically deliver that digital catalog. And when you think, oh gosh, yeah, I've gotten something and it's so hard to open it, I got to figure out how to make it work. These digital catalogs are very intuitive, very easy to use, and very buyer or user oriented for convenience. So there's not a risk in that. And think of the money you're saving in sending that out rather than a printed catalog. And also now they have to go online to make their choices and their comments. And you have that information now, and that becomes the basis for a new order, which when you sent out a manual catalog or printed catalog, you didn't have that kind of information.
I have another question. What are your thoughts on FAIR? It seems too good to be true, kind of like Amazon Marketplace was 10 years ago.
Can you repeat that question?
Sure. What are your thoughts on FAIR? FAIR Marketplace? It seems too good to be true, kind of like Amazon Marketplace 10 years ago.
I don't know. That's a really good question. Megan, do you have an answer to that question?
No, I'm not very familiar with FAIR.
Oh, I'm not either. So if I don't know, I'm not sure what FAIR is, so I'm sorry I can't answer that question.
No problem. If there's any other questions, please feel free to enter them now. Yeah, I think those are the questions for today. I just wanted to say just thank you so much for those of you who don't know who we are. We're RepSpark, And we're a leading B2B wholesale commerce platform that's super personalized, intuitive, and powerfully intelligent. We're designed for brands to connect and collaborate with their buyers all in one place and to be able to create line sheets, analyze key data 24/7. So please check us out on RepSpark.com. And for video recordings as well as more webinars, we are listed on RepSpark.com/webinars.